we're going to get started. Thank y'all for being here today, and we're one day away from crossover. And I was told a few minutes ago we got 50-something bills tomorrow. Do you know how many? Representative Bauer, you have any idea how many? Y'all probably got that many, if not more. Hey, Lord. Well, thank y'all. If you will open in prayer, let me open in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for this great day, Lord, and thank you that you've given us another opportunity to serve you. And Lord, we thank you that you've given us another opportunity to do great things for the great people of Georgia. Just please be with us and grant us wisdom, courage, and moderation, Lord, as we deliberate these bills. In your Son's name we pray. Amen. Okay, we're gonna start off ladies first, and with Representative Ballard. This will be our first House bill we've heard, and so please come forward. Many of y'all, I'm sure, in this room know this, but just without just further reiteration, this is the lady that's the primary sponsor of House Bill 538, which brought phonics back to our schools. And I don't think we can ever thank her enough for what she did and the hard work that she put into that, and still is. So she's got a bill today, and Representative, we always ask people, obviously, identify themselves, but we ask them also to tell why they have a passion for this bill and what this bill means to them before they get into the particulars of the bill. So if you would please start off, please.
Thank you. On?
Is it on?
I think maybe this might have to move over to the other side.
Yeah.
I think this is the one.
Is that one of them dead? Try that one. No?
No, you have it off.
There we
Oh,
go.
I thought it had on.
Oops.
Here.
Bennett, come here.
There you go.
I think you hit it
Right
when
here.
it comes off. It will all sound.
It takes a second to get.
The whole thing went dead in. Do I have a clue?
It went dead for.
Well, we apologize. You just will have to talk a little bit louder. Yeah, talk a little bit louder.
I'll use my teacher voice.
There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got House Bill 81, which is LC number 610036. And I'm bringing this because this bill is important for two of our House priorities and what I think are Senate priorities too, which is school safety and literacy. And as you know, that I am especially passionate about the second one. So this is an initiative that's developed by, I don't know why I'm still talking on the microphone.
No, you're fine. Oh, okay.
This is an initiative that was developed by the Council of State Governments in collaboration with the Department of Defense and the National Association of School Psychologists. And what this bill does, it enters us into the Interstate Compact of School Psychologists, which will reduce barriers to certification for school psychologists from the member states. It will ensure that only qualified professionals are authorized to provide services to our children. And as I said before, it aligns with our priorities of literacy and school safety, because what these school psychologists do, a bulk of what they do is assess our students for dyslexia and for other special ed needs. So that's the bill. I know it's really thick. It's got a lot of moving pieces in it that set up the compact, but I will take questions.
Explain the compact concept to me, for us.
Okay, so when you enter into a compact of states, those states who are members of that compact agree on what the requirements will be and what the, do you need to pause?
Ooh, look, I don't have. Well, is it on? Yay. Okay, I don't have to holler. Now I have to tone down my teacher voice. So they agree on what the requirements will be for the member states and what classes that the school psychologists will have to take, what those requirements will be for what we will accept. And this one is very good. One of the questions that I had over on the House side is this lower the standards for what we will accept as a school psychologist in Georgia. And in fact, it does not. In fact, we're requiring the other people who joined this compact to meet our requirements.
So how many states are in the, excuse me, how many states are in the compact?
Right now, West Virginia and Colorado have agreed upon this. It's up in the sessions in Nebraska, New Jersey, and Georgia this year, and it will take 7 states to make the compact an agreement.
So are any of the states that touch us in the compact?
Not yet, but they are getting on board, hopefully soon.
So we know in the, I was looking at budget a few minutes ago, we know that the system, and I'm sure Matt could attest this, the system right now allows for one psychologist for 2,240 students.
Mm-hmm.
And so this would, as we know, there's a lot of mental health has become a big topic of conversation at Capitol. So this would allow us to have more mental health, have more psychologists in school system in order to help our children.
Yes, there'll be more eyes on our children, and one thing I am committed to is to not putting more things on our teachers. I was a high school teacher. I was not trained in mental health. I was not trained to assess for special ed or dyslexia. I was trained to teach Shakespeare and Chaucer to high school students. So it's important for us to allow our teachers to teach and let the other professionals do what they do in our schools. So this will definitely help.
So now we a lot of times we've got the school counselors are kind of moving into the psychology, and they're really not technically qualified for that role, but they're having to do it anyway. Okay.
So this will help.
Okay. Just Senator Parent?
Yes.
Okay.
Number 6.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good to see you, Representative Ballard. Thank you so much for your work on this, and I appreciate all that you've already done in your short tenure to advance some really good education causes here in Georgia. I apologize that I came in late, so you may be retreading ground for me, but can you just run through what the sort of like concrete benefits are of doing the...
Okay, and you didn't miss very many of them. It will reduce barriers to certification. So if you're certified in one member state, you can seamlessly transition to another state. And this was brought to us in collaboration with the Department of Defense. So a lot of the states that are starting this are kind of military-heavy states that have a lot of spouses that are in this career field. And it will ensure that only qualified professionals are working in this area with our children. It will ensure that we don't have just, some well-meaning volunteer or someone who's not qualified working with our children.
Okay. And so most of the length is just how
The nuts and bolts.
the nuts and bolts of how it has to work. So does it currently exist, or we need
We need
7
7.
states? Okay. So we would be number 3.
We would be 3, but Nebraska and New Jersey have it in their legislatures this year, so potentially 5.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
I didn't get you, but read off the LC number that you're working off of.
610036.
Thank you. Senator Beard.
Thank you, Chairman. Just kind of reading through this real quick. So if the compact becomes active, you got 7 states. Are we saying this will allow, if there's a major event at a school, that we could bring in counselors from other states that's in this compact?
That would be possible because they would have the same training that Georgia's psychologists would have.
Well, anything else need to be done once the compact becomes official?
It will be good.
Okay,
Good to
thank
go.
you.
I don't see any other questions, so we're gonna ask, Margaret, if you would please come forward from Page.
Hey y'all, I'm Margaret Ciccarelli from Page, representing the Professional Association of Georgia Educators. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. We are in strong support of this legislation. Georgia teachers, when we surveyed them, identified more school psychologists, counselors, and social workers as their top strategy to increase school safety by increasing student mental health delivery. So we know that we have both kind of a money and a labor shortage when it comes to school psychologists in Georgia, which is why we were thrilled to see Governor Kemp support lowering the school counselor ratio in his proposed budget. But we still need to address the labor issue, which is what this bill does. So we support the compact, and in fact, I have a letter for y'all today from the president of the State School Psychologist Association. She is a practicing school psychologist in Jackson County. Her name is Rachel Greenlee, and with the chairman's
Please.
okay, I would just like to read. She is serving students today, and that's why she could not be here with us. So she writes, as you know, House Bill 81 is a bill about license portability. It removes unnecessary and often redundant red tape, instead allowing school psychologists to come to our state and begin serving qualifications and credentials as those school psychologists currently certified by Georgia's Professional Standards Commission. As school psychologists, we are uniquely trained to help schools address the increasingly complex needs of our students, which they bring to school each and every day. School psychologists have the highest entry-level requirements of all those in education, with specialist-level certification required. We receive training not only in special education evaluation and disability identification, including dyslexia, autism, and emotional and behavioral disorders, but also in crisis response, to the senator's question about an unfortunate kind of crisis situation. Mental health and behavioral intervention. As practitioners, we work collaboratively with school teams and parents to design instructional and behavioral supports for students in general and special education that are best suited to their unique learning profiles. And to the priorities of this committee, safety and literacy, she writes, 2 of the 7 dyslexia pilots provisioned by SB 48 utilized school psychologists as district dyslexia pilot coordinators because of their expertise in child development, learning, and database decision making. As current president of the Georgia Association of School Psychologists, I was one of those pilot coordinators and have most recently served on the Literacy Screening Advisory Group, tasked with delivering a list of up to 5 universal literacy screeners to be adopted in Georgia under our literacy upgrades. I also chaired the statewide dyslexia task force working group that developed the reading and dyslexia screening process flowchart and characteristics of dyslexia rubric that now appear in the Georgia Handbook. In summation, not only do school psychologists have advanced training that can help schools navigate our state's new literacy initiatives and support the implementation of these practices in their respective districts, but we also support the behavioral, social, and mental health needs of our students, which directly impacts school safety. Simply put, the work of school psychologists helps students learn and teach, and teachers teach, so that Georgia schools can graduate literate and productive citizens who contribute positively to our communities. If there was ever a time to alleviate barriers for school psychologists to come to our state and support our schools, it is now. The Georgia Association of School Psychologists fully supports House Bill 81, and we appreciate your consideration. Respectfully submitted, Rachel Greenlee.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I've sent a copy of this to Sophia and can provide the letter to others
Thank
on the
you.
committee.
You know, I've said this, and now this whole literacy thing is such a big puzzle, and every time we turn around, there's another piece to the puzzle. And hopefully one day we'll have all the pieces, and we can put the pieces together, put the puzzle together, and help our children learn how to read. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Barrow? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Senator Parent.
Oh, great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Margaret. I wanted to just quickly go back to a comment you made earlier to make sure I'm up to speed on where we are with our funding for the counselor ratios. I know that we have a statute, right, which is what, 1 to 450?
Yes, but that's different than the psychologist ratio,
Right.
which was in the governor's budget.
Which is
So
in the budget?
the psychologist ratio.
Okay, not counselors, because I know we did something on
We
counselors.
have that now. Y'all, as a legislature, did address those a few years ago, and it is part of our legislative priority with educators in the state to further reduce that counselor ratio. But this is a long-term project and something that, frankly, we can't afford to do like many state priorities in 1 year.
Sure, yeah.
It needs incremental attention over time.
What does it say for the psychologists?
It's 24/7.
No, 2240. I was actually reviewing the 26 budget earlier, about an hour or so ago, and it's 2240, and and it's 400. The counselor's like 420, 440, somewhere thereabouts. All these numbers are so out of whack, and these numbers were based upon the QBE formula in 1985.
Right. Are you saying 1 to 2,240 kids?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I know that counselors, our statute is like 1 to 450, which we weren't doing until maybe 2 years ago. But I know the recommendations are more like 1 to 250.
Yeah,
So, but wow, 1 to 2,000.
240.
That's a lot.
But
Big job.
these are funding, but also labor issues. Even if we
Sure.
provided more funding, it doesn't
And money,
necessarily
that's
mean we
right.
have the professionals
Yeah.
to do the work. So we need to try to address this problem on both ends.
That's right.
That-
Thank you so much. Yeah.
That's what's good about this bill. Jody, you mind coming forward? Jody Barrow with the Professional Standards Commission. And Jody actually told me earlier today that he was actually working with Representative Ballard on this bill. So, from your perspective, please, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. Am I good?
You're good.
Are we
Yeah.
good now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I appreciate the opportunity, Chairman Hickman, Senators, to be here with you today. When we talk about interstate compact, probably a term that maybe you're more familiar with is called reciprocity. And that maybe helps simplify the whole notion about interstate compacts. Basically, the issue about recruitment and retention for all of our educational folks, we see the need. We have a lot of openings here. The reality is, you were talking about the ratios, a high percentage there. We don't have enough psychologists in the state of Georgia to lower that ratio a whole lot, and this type of agreement might help us out in getting more people to come to Georgia. The recruitment and retention issue is something that we want to be innovative with. I will say this about some interstate compacts. I do have some concerns about others. I do not have any concern about this one, so I want to make that real clear. We had our certification division go through the requirements as far as psychologists are concerned, and our people felt like they met everything that we would be asking for psychologists to be trained for here in Georgia. This compact meets that. So the whole issue about mental health and safety, as a practitioner, I very much appreciate that. You know, these people help us with psychometric testing, and so the whole issue about dyslexia, about special needs, these folks can help, but they also can help with mental health issues as they come up. And I certainly like the fact that Representative Ballard also had a component in that dealt with military families too. So that makes the process much easier as people move into Georgia, and you know we have a lot of bases here in Georgia. Makes sense. So as far as the actual certification process, we would have to do some rule writing, but we don't see that as a problem based on what we have in this document.
Thank you, sir. Who's number 12? Oh, Senator Hatchett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for bringing the bill I'm in support of this, but just have a couple questions about the other states that are joining the compact now. You said you have to have 7, is that right? And who are the other states that have been in? Or that are in?
Currently, West Virginia and Colorado, they've done it. And then Nebraska and New Jersey have it up in their legislatures this year.
Okay. And ultimately, I guess psychologists from those states could practice here and vice versa.
Good.
I had to carry a bill last year for the interstate compact for the placement of children, and I know it's most important to have border states. But with that being said, I'm assuming the other states in there probably have a shortage of psychologists too. Is there any concern that Georgia psychologists will go to other states? And why would you leave Georgia? But I mean,
Why would you leave Georgia?
We'll keep them here. I'm just.
I don't think so. Like I said, these are fairly, since this was an initiative of the Department of Defense and these states have a hefty military presence, I think that is more why these have jumped onto it. Because it does ease that transition for military spouses who move every 2 years and don't, you can't spend 9 months getting a license when you're only somewhere 24 months.
Right. That makes sense. Well, I appreciate it, and hopefully we can get it passed, and you just tell everybody in the House that the Senate is moving House bills over here before crossover.
I will spread the word.
They need to, yeah.
Actually, I'm going to brag about it on my behalf.
Senator, you weren't supposed to tell about our ulterior motive. I didn't know till yesterday, and you just hit on it a second ago about the average of how many times a military family moves during a child's tenure in 12.
Yeah.
It's 6 to 7 times, like every 2 years. I can't imagine the trauma that puts in a child's life to do that. So, Senator? Yes, sir.
Well, thank you. And it's also because of the benefit in working with DJJ, and we had interstate compacts done with our, living in Northwest Georgia, where you got Alabama and Tennessee right there. That is really the greatest aid to this, is so that you can cross those lines to go to Chattanooga for, one of my kids on probation in Catoosa County, Georgia, could go into Chattanooga to receive services that they needed there. So and being that our military bases are all close to the border of our state, this is a big issue. So I'm thank you for bringing this bill.
Okay. I don't see anything blinking. I'm going to ask is there an interest in passage? Senator Kemp?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to pass. LC 610036.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second. Who's number? Okay, that's not blank. All in favor, raise your right hand, please. Okay, thank you. 100%. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee.
Okay, the question, who's going to carry the bill in Senate?
I had spoken to Senator Walker
Great.
about it.
Thank you. Your friend, your next door neighbor, not next door neighbor, but close to you though.
Well, he sits behind me at church.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. There you go. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on. Senator Jones, okay. We're looking at Senator Jones' bill, Senate Bill 54, and it's concerning an alert system in school, safety system. So, Senator, if you would please tell us the LC number and why this bill is important to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Education and Youth Committee. I am presenting Senate Bill 54, LC 394489. And the reason why this bill is important to me is this was the #1 priority of the Firearm Safe Storage Study Committee this past summer and fall that was created by the Lieutenant Governor. There's 3 elements to this bill, and the whole thrust of the bill is to create an alert system. There's various systems out there, but this kind of directs the state DOE to create the system rather than individual school systems trying to do it on their own. So they will have one common system, and that is listed on line 11, section A. The third element of this bill is listed on line 21. And on line 21 and 22, it directs DOE to essentially promulgate some rules to create a statewide database for primary and secondary schools. Essentially, this database would exist of students that pose any kind of threat to any of the 180 school systems throughout the state of Georgia. And there are some criteria in terms of how students are to be evaluated. This is based on evaluation from the clinical psychologists and the social workers in the school system. And Section B, starting on line 21, basically steps through how a student would appear on that list and how a student would go about getting off that list. And on line 38 in Section C of this bill, the third component just allows DOE to consult with other school systems and other agencies in order to put and to create this kind of a database. The purpose of the database is to allow, similar to what we had in September of 2024 this year, where a student was receiving care in one school system, transferred to another school system, but that information did not transfer with them. This kind of database will allow those kind of situations preferably not to occur in the school system, because a student that would be identified as having some issues, that information would be made available throughout the system. While we were discussing this idea, I did reach out to the superintendent and members of his staff and asked them about this concept, and unless the superintendent is here, I did not receive any pushback against this idea.
I know there's some bills out there talking about number of days that this data has to be available between school systems. I don't think you've addressed this in this bill. This bill is to put the responsibility on the back of the Department of Education, Board of Education, to come up with the process.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. It is up to, this just asked them to promulgate their own rule for the Department of Education statewide.
Okay, sir. And then at that point in time, they would then have to determine about the money situation, or would it? I guess you really hadn't addressed that yet. As far as there's the money already in the grants that we've given out to the schools, or would that probably be additional?
Well, based on the information and based on my contacts within the system that I've discussed this bill with, the financial impact should be minimal. There's a lot of information that already transfers to various school systems with students and their background. This would add an additional field to that process.
Okay, and this would be with the State Board of Education, not Department of Education.
This would be the state DOE, Department of Education.
Yeah. Okay. I see number 11 again.
I'm sorry.
State Board.
I said that incorrect. It is the State Board of Education.
Yeah,
yes,
State Board. That's what yeah, I was trying to get my thoughts straight too.
Yep.
Senator Kemp.
Thank you for this bill, Senator. I was just curious why, for the database, is it starting in 2027 versus like 2026?
To give the State Board an opportunity to hire a contractor and to program the system, and to give the school systems an opportunity to identify and to work with students and their families for some students who may be included on this system.
Got it.
We didn't want to push it out too soon. We want them to take their time and get it right the first time.
And I know that some pushback comes from like parents being concerned about privacy, but I think it's important to point out, like in lines 25, this is not just if a student does something and they're automatically on this list. This comes after an investigation has occurred, correct?
By a professional, clinical professional. That is correct, Senator.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad I was going to ask you to ask a question. Okay.
You was going to ask me to ask a question?
Well, you know what I was going to ask you from your experience in law enforcement. Would you That's why I was going to ask you to address it.
No. Well, number one, appreciate you bringing the bill forward. I understand the intent, but I do got a couple questions. Lines 38, starting on lines 38, State Board of Education shall be authorized to consult with GMA. And line 11, the State Board of Education shall establish. Do we think GMA may be the best place for this to start and not just the school board having the right to consult with them?
Thank you, Senator, for that question. Again, this is something that should be driven by the State Board of Education, not by law enforcement or Homeland Security. This section, starting on line 38, gives the State Board an opportunity to consult with any professionals that they deem is necessary in order to identify those that may be served by having this kind of system in place.
And then if we go to lines 27 and 28, are there any school systems right now without a social worker or counselor in them across the state?
None that I'm aware of.
Okay.
There are some that would like more, but
I
those
think we do
services
need
are
more
being
because
offered.
of some of the issues we're having in the state. And then on lines 32 and 33, such database shall be accessible only to designated personnel at each public elementary or secondary school in the state. Who makes that designation to who can be on that database to see who's on that base?
Excellent question, and thank you. That's all part of the rules that will be promulgated by the State Board.
I guess my only thing is I would still go back to our experts in GMA because of their work with the school safety plans that they currently do, the stuff that they're tasked on safety. Again, I guess I just probably a difference in opinion, but I do appreciate the intent of the bill to where you're trying to go with it. So I do appreciate that very much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good. Well, as we said early on, I think with the House and the Senate, school safety and literacy are the two priorities. So we're very open to this. I thank you so much. I don't see any lights. We got one person. Oh, yes.
Respond
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Okay.
Does this give the state board, school board, if they so choose, they can change, like if they want to go with GMA rather than, I mean, they can go down that path and institute that as their to consult with?
Under Section C, this basically gives the State Board of Education the option to go with GMA or Homeland Security or any of the other agencies out there that they would be involved
Okay, so
with.
it does, okay. That was my, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Senator Payne, we may be going down the same road. I'm not sure, but I would be more comfortable if it says the State Board of Education shall consult instead of shall be authorized.
Oh, okay. I like that.
I don't know if that was going down the same road you was going on,
Yeah,
Senator Payne, but I was taking a guess.
Because I'm not sure which, sitting here right now, I'm not sure which they would need to consult.
Yeah, this is basically, as Senator just stated, gives them the authorization to consult with these various agencies.
Because the gist of the bill is to build the functional plan
That's
for
right.
how we can implement it. So that's why I'm saying staff and one in there, just make sure that we're having them the power to consult with anyone. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yes, it makes sense, or yes, you don't agree.
No, what he was talking about, I agree with what
Okay.
the conversation there.
Okay.
What's that tweet?
I don't see any other lights on. I like what you said about the wording Senator Bearden put in there. What, again, on that one line, it was on 38.
It was on lines 38. Currently, it would state the State Board of Education shall be authorized to consult with
Yeah.
George Emergency Emergency Management and Homeland Security Agency, I would be striking, if we got to a point where an amendment would be done, we'd be striking the words be authorized to, and it would be shall consult. So we'd force them to consult with GMA. But I said we haven't got to the amendment part of that yet.
Are you making that in form of an amendment, or are you just talking about it?
We just talking about it, like, if we got to that point, then I'd probably.
Well, we're not very far from that point.
So I think that strengthens the bill, and I would strongly welcome and encourage
Okay.
that kind of amendment to this legislation.
Just then, before we get to that point, let's, we got one speaker. Yes, ma'am. Oh, yeah, that's on there. Yeah, okay. Miss Bird, you here? Yeah. Okay. Yes, ma'am, please.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Chairman and Senators. My name is DeAndrea Bird, and I come to you guys as a parent and a child of an educator and a longtime education advocate. I'm just here today to express my concerns about Senate Bill 54. While as a parent, I definitely share the goal of ensuring student safety in schools for our kids, I fear that this bill will disproportionately harm Black and brown students and students with disabilities. You see, safety is not the same for every person and for all students. Black and brown children often have to fear external threats like school shootings, but also being over-policed, over-disciplined, and pushed out of the education systems because of certain rules. The very system sometimes meant to protect them often criminalizes them. Instead, a statewide database would make schools safer, but it also could make it easier for some children to be labeled, stereotyped, watched, harassed, punished, rather than supported. Research already shows and data already shows that in the state of Georgia, Black students are 3.4 times more likely to face disciplinary actions. That's 3.4 more times compared to their peers, and students with disabilities are 1.5 more times to face discipline actions than non-disabled students. Students with IEPs and 504 plans who may struggle with emotional regulation, communication, who are already not being serviced, could be misclassified as threats rather than receiving the supports and the services that they need. I'm also deeply concerned about the surveillance aspect with hackers and things that are happening daily. Who will have access to our children's, by children because it's K through 12, that means 5-year-olds. Who's gonna have access to this information? How will it be protected from hackers or being used or sold or people that want to do things that are not good to our kids? And digital records can follow kids and impact them even after school, impacting their life and education, and possibly criminalizing students that could have had a success plan instead of a criminal record. SB 54 claims to provide mental health services, but as we've heard at the previous testimonies, Georgia schools are already severely underfunded. So when it comes to mental health support, so instead of putting students on the watch list, I want you guys to consider investing in the counselors, the social workers, restorative justice practices, and addressing behaviors at the root instead of punishing students after the fact. If we truly want safe schools, we must stop militarizing schools, treating students like suspects, and start building environments where children can learn, feel safe, feel valued, be supported, and get the actual services that they need to be good humans. I urge this committee to reconsider SB 54 and reconsider our actual bill that has student safety. I also want to encourage you guys to get the input of actual students and parents when you guys make these bills to make sure the implementation actually creates a safe environment for all students. So please, please reconsider SB 54.
Senator Sims.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Most school districts already have the information, so it's not like we're gathering data that we haven't gathered before. I was a school principal. I dealt with records, and you said your parents were in the school district, so you understand that most this is pretty common. But you're worried about the safety issue of how this is going to be stored and not, come in the hand, rest in the hands of someone that may use it in a very nefarious kind of way. But I think tantamount to everything that's being said is the safety of the children. And no matter what communities schools are located in nowadays, and I don't want to just hammer on today's society, all of our children are exposed to, whether it's a rich neighborhood, a poor neighborhood, they are exposed to all kinds of criminal elements that are harmful to them. And what we're trying to do here is to, if there's been a problem in a school setting someplace else, just as what happened in, I think it was Barrow County, and the information did not get to the school to warn them about the conduct of the young shooter. You want to have this information in hand so you'll know how to prepare and to be able to help that child as well. Because possibly something could have been done when he arrived at that school to keep that shooting from happening. But right now, we already have, there's already a digital footprint for every school child pretty much in America. And it's safety first is what I'm thinking about. And as a parent, I'm sure that's your major concern too, because that's what you said from the beginning, right? So thank you. Thank you. And that's pretty much what I wanted to say, Mr. Chairman.
That was very well said. Anybody else have any comments? 14, 15?
Hello, and thank you for your comments. And thank you, Senator, for this bill, because I don't think the intent is to hurt the children or to expose them to something that they shouldn't have, because as my colleague just told you, that information is already out there. So I hope you know that we're just trying to protect the children and trying to give them everything that they should have and equip them with what they need. So thank you.
Okay. Well, Senator, we appreciate it. We're, as you well know, crossovers tomorrow, so we appreciate you. We wanted to make sure safety is such a big priority. We wanted you to have an opportunity to present this bill today. So I will ask you and Senator Bearden to get together and look at the information he was talking about, and then we'll be ready for it next time.
Yeah. Can we fix it now?
Ma'am?
Is Ledge Council here?
Can we fix it now?
So we can
With
go ahead
that.
and move the bill?
The bill can't move forward over to the House anymore because tomorrow's crossover day. There's not enough time for it to be second read. So it'll be recommitted, and then you can hear it again next year with the corrections made. That would be simpler because it can't move. So you really shouldn't take a few.
But we can go ahead and change the bill so that it does become.
Yeah, so when it is recommitted, it'll be perfect or better.
I mean, I guess you could, but then there would be a pending motion due pass.
Well, we're here.
Oh, that's true. Okay, I'm with you
It
now.
complicates the posture, so I think.
Suggestion, Mr. Chairman? What if you two got together and got the language ready, because there may be an opportunity to attach it? So let's get that done, so we're ready to go on the floor if the opportunity arises. Would that work for you?
Absolutely. I think the suggestion that was made by the senator from the 30th is basically deleting one word. So it's not it doesn't change the bill in any way. And the importance of this hearing to me is having the opportunity to work with members in the House
That's
for
right.
a bill that may have passed committee, that they would be open to working
Right.
with me on one of their bills that have already passed and may be eligible for crossover.
Senator Beasley.
If we went against the advisement of legislative council and move forward on this, then I may want to look at lines 33 where it says accessible only to designate personnel, to tighten that up to maybe the superintendent, because only to designate personnel at each public elementary or secondary school in the state. That could be anyone, and the superintendent, of course, they work for the school board, but they do have the control of the school system. So that might be something we need to look at to tighten that down.
And
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I did not want to put a whole lot of specificity in this bill because I'm asking DOE to promulgate the rules, how they're going to implement it. So when you start looking at that level of detail, I believe that the state board would find it objectionable for us to try and tell them how to implement a system that they currently have in their schools.
So you're basically saying it's not.
Those are the kind of things that would be, those are the kind of rules that
So
would be made by
you're giving the
state board.
Board of Education instruction to create a system, but not telling them how to do it. Is that coming to?
Mm-hmm.
That is correct. This is a blueprint for them to create a system dealing with this particular issue. Yes.
And I would just follow up with that if I could. While they may not like it, if we're doing the law, I wouldn't be comfortable if I had to come back later because they gave it to 5 people at a certain school or 8 here and information gets out. I think it needs to be constricted to who has control of that type of information. We're talking about a database with a child. Not something that a police officer can run through GCIC, but a child in the school system. And there's 180 systems. If there's 3,000 people obtaining that information or able to access it, then I think it'd be our job to tighten it down.
And just, if I could respond, this system is already used when a child changes school systems. Their grades, their attendance records, and a lot of other information already is available to the accepting school system. This is not creating anything new. It's just designating that in addition to that information that would transfer over, the state board would then transfer over any information on a student that had been receiving mental health, I hate to use those terms, but receiving care in another school system to make that information available to the transferring or accepting school system. That's all it does.
Senator Hatch.
Just I guess a point of order and then a question to Ledge Council. If we amended this bill in Senate, it's going to get recommitted. When it gets recommitted back, because of the deadline, the crossover, it comes back to us in whatever form it came originally, all the edits and stuff. So if we do anything,
It goes back.
it's a clean slate when it comes back. So I guess if I may, Mr. Chairman, point number 2 is I know the issue of germaneness is what you have to look at, and I believe there are several school safety bills that have passed out of the House. It's kind of been a theme. And if y'all are able to get the language worked out, I think that would be an appropriate vehicle to attach one of those two if it comes back, if we can work on it from now until after crossover, to maybe see this language on another bill, because I do think this is a good bill.
Thank
So-
you.
So your suggestion would be to And I think we all think it's a great bill. I mean, the questions were very limited. You did a great job with it. Very questions very limited. So I think we all think it's a good bill. So your statement would be to look for something that coming from the House so we could attach this language in.
Right, because if whatever we do to this bill,
Yeah.
because of the time and where we're at in the session, but just the rules,
Right.
we won't be able to move it, and it'll get recommitted. And once it comes back,
Okay.
it comes back to
You
us
okay with
in
it?
the form that it
Absolutely.
came to us originally. So
Yeah.
whatever we do will get erased.
Right.
And that was
Yeah.
my intention, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Sir.
HB 268 is already crossed over.
Yeah. But, sir, are you okay with that?
Absolutely, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
I-
That was my intention
you
because
just
there
want-
is an HB 268 that's crossed over,
Yeah.
and I'm beginning to have those conversations already.
I think there's a lot of us in the Senate don't really care for the credit as long as we get it done.
That's correct.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Number 15? Wait. Go on this one.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that you started out, Senator, saying that this is a recommendation from the study committee that's already had several meetings, correct?
That's correct. This is the number one recommendation of the study committee, and during that study committee, and in response to the
Right.
parent that was here, we met with essentially everybody from small kids to high school kids as well, with educators. We met with social workers. We did an extensive deep dive into the ecosystem surrounding this kind of work as it relates to our school system.
Mr. Chairman, because I know that we've listened to it and we have some recommendations, I'd like to concur with Senator that we have ask our legislative council to give us the word now, and we vote on it and have it perfect when it leaves here. I'd like to make that motion.
I don't know if we need a motion, just as
You don't need
as
it.
a suggestion.
Yes, that's a suggestion.
Senator Hatch,
Can we-
wouldn't that be right?
And that's what I thought you were saying.
My suggestion was just to work on it and then find a vehicle to attach to something else, because whatever we do to this bill, we could make it perfect. But it will never be able to cross over. And when it comes back to us, we'll have to make it perfect again because it comes back to us the way it came to us. Right? Is that right, Senator?
Yeah,
Perry?
it makes perfect sense.
Okay.
Yeah. And the author's fine with that.
That was my intention.
So
Yes.
So all I was going to say is that it sounds a bit, Senator, like you're sort of hoping that the committee agrees that we
Yeah.
do think it's a good policy to
Obviously.
try to enact this year, since we're hamstrung by the rules.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
That's
Yes.
absolutely correct,
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Let's do it.
Absolutely.
Well, then, if everybody's in agreement with that, Michael, you in agreement with that? Okay.
We're all in agreement.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your passion for this, and we appreciate your passion for this. So we will be adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.